Welcome to the Wit and Wonder Podcast, a space where we hold the sacred, the messy, the magical, and the deeply human. I'm your host, Maria, writer, mentor, and devoted student of the human experience. Each episode is a soft yet honest reflection, an offering of perspective, and an invitation to return to your inner world. Here we go. This episode is going to be about alchemizing time, understanding time as this human construct versus time as our ultimate teacher and self-reflection, and just the idea that our ability to be present with ourselves almost dissolves time, while our almost anxious and avoidant tendencies create this illusion that time feels like pressure or like we are stuck or trapped. And the reason why I'm bringing this topic to the podcast is because I love the idea of manifestation and metaphysics, right? I said that before. That's nothing new. And then the idea of law of attraction and manifestation are things that I absolutely love because they're rooted in energy. There's science about it, but there's also like lore and mysticism that's connected to it. But as we all know, that when we talk about the laws of the universe, and particularly the law of attraction, we're talking about the energy that we're embodying. And I truly believe that time is one of those greatest reflectors of that energy. It can show us our attachment to our external circumstances. It can teach us about patience, and it can teach us about actions that are aligned to the things that we desire in ways that we really can't understand without that reflection, if we're willing to use it that way. We might not always be in a position to allow time to service us in the role of our greatest teacher or to be a guide into the sense of ourself that we're trying to understand, or even really guide us towards what we're actually wanting. Because time, energy itself, or life itself, doesn't act out of wanting to punish us. Like, time does not want to punish us. It doesn't want to keep us away from the things that we want or the things that we want to experience. All it's asking is that there's parts of ourselves that are maybe not ready to receive what we're asking for yet. Yes, like time as we know it, clocks, calendars, digital numbers on a screen, all necessary things when it comes to our human reality and our life. Although there's a construct around it where it's now created this pressure for us that makes us believe that there's some sort of expiration date to the things we want to experience, or there's pressure in making things happen now. And for me, this topic is hitting close to home at the moment because the idea of impulsivity and doing things now has been something that I've struggled with in the past. It comes from this place of hearing my intuition and knowing what my intuition is telling me, or this inner knowing that speaks to me that I'm supposed to be doing something, or there's more out there for me to experience, and then taking that and acting on it right away. I always thought, and I always had this story around it, that I was being courageous, that I was doing the action of my highest good and my highest alignment, when in reality, nothing that I was doing in that action of impulsivity was rooted in security, love, or presence. It was deeply rooted in my sense of attachment, anxiety, and fear of missing out, like FOMO, but also just the pressure of feeling like I need to be that version of myself now. Actions create realities and shift realities for us, but very rarely do we think about the fact that one day or one choice is going to always change the rest of our lives. It can happen, right? Like the lottery is a great example. Your one choice to make the purchase of a ticket can change every other day you exist after that. So coming back to like my example, what would happen is my intuition would tell me like, Maria, there's more to life. There's more that you could be doing. There's more that you could create. I was able to receive that intuitive knowing and then just all of a sudden made a choice and decided to quit my job and pursue the business full time when I wasn't really ready. And in reality, I abandoned parts of myself that needed security, that needed reassurance that everything was going to be stable. And I also wasn't at the time in a position for myself and inside where I was actually confident enough in my abilities to mentor people. Everything worked out, but I could have avoided the turmoil that came from my impulsivity if I was willing to understand that the intuitive nudge or the intuitive knowing that there's no pressure of time. I could have asked myself to practice embodying the energy of that version of myself so that when I did get there, it felt easy and it felt flowy and comfortable and safe and secure. And there's parts of me that didn't always like safe and secure, so that's another thing. But sometimes the spontaneity was really thrilling. But the beauty of time is it gives us the ability to not receive something until we're ready, which means time plays out and it allows us to repeat cycles or go through evolution or practice receptivity of a certain energy. It allows us to align our nervous system and our thought patterns to these experiences that we're wanting. It gives us the space to become the version of ourselves that we need before we receive those things, because a lot of the time we may receive those things impulsively and not be ready to hold them, and it causes more anxiety than it does peace. And similar to coming back to the lottery, there's a lot of people that win like millions of dollars, but they haven't created a foundation or a structure to be able to hold that amount of money. And so they end up being broke or bankrupt within just a few years. Is there cycles of repeating impulsivity before we can understand that time is a blessing? Absolutely. The purpose is to repeat those cycles because we can't always learn everything we're meant to learn within one cycle of experiencing something. We have to see it evolve over time, and it gets deeper and deeper each time we experience it. We take something new away from it. And then when the divine essence of time matches the resonance and energy of our own being and our own actions and our own vibration, that's when it delivers. That's when the universe is like, oh, okay, like your energy, your core energy matches this experience, and you're going to be able to receive it. The other part of this is we receive what we want all the time and we just don't see it. And so time allows us and reflects back to us that ability. It shows us where we might have to dissolve particular mindsets, or we're blaming time for not receiving something, even though we have been receiving it, we just haven't been ready to see it. But essentially, like, we could be like, I never receive support for my art, when in reality, there's individuals always telling us how beautiful our art is. We are just not in energetic alignment to receive it. We can hear it, but we're not listening to receive. We're listening to prove a point. So the question we could be asking ourselves is, what vision or desire have I been holding, and do I feel prepared to receive it right now? And if you received it right now, would you receive it with love and security, or would you receive it with anxiety? Because that's the biggest part, is our nervous system is such a great indicator of whether or not we can actually hold a particular frequency or energy or experience based on our ability to be open. Our intuition is only a reflection of our inner essence, and it's guiding us. It allows us to make conclusions and make choices that are aligned with those intuitive knowings, but it doesn't require a result in a certain time frame. All it's doing is it's reflecting to you an energy or an experience, a vision, a mindset, and it's saying, this is what we're capable of, and this is what we want, and this is where we're going. It's our body's job and our mind's job to receive that information and act accordingly, in the sense of making sure that our needs are still met, making sure that we're moving in a direction that still allows for inner trust and inner safety, and that we're not impulsively or spontaneously putting ourselves in positions that feel unsafe. And with that, it allows this cycle and repeated lesson and invitation to choose differently. Am I saying that there's no time for spontaneity? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying time allows us the ability to move peacefully and congruently and energetically into the experiences that our intuition is speaking to us. So intuition allows for the preparation, the foundation, and the embodiment. And then the action allows for the alignment. It's just about the invitation is to allow time to do its job in allowing us to align to that energy more safely, make concrete decisions and choices that align us into our greatest self, so that when those things come, we can receive with ease. One of the most common stories is like relationships, right? Where people want love and they want relationships because they want that experience. They're not always aware of the frequency in which they're manifesting from. And so they get into relationships, and when true love actually steps forward is when all of their insecurities come up. And so they end up actually pushing it away. And that's not an uncommon experience. This is exactly how time shows us its ability to allow us to embody the energy of what we're asking for, or what our intuition is guiding us toward. I had a really similar experience where I was manifesting relationships and romantic love specifically, and someone came into my life, and there was a lot of times where we went in and out of each other's lives, and the cycle kind of repeated itself, but it made each time a bit more aware. And so in that case, it was a blessing, because if we tried to make a romantic relationship work without all that time spent apart, it would have been extremely difficult, and it probably would have caused more harm than good. So to finish this off, I just hope that we can all look at time as a reflection of ourselves. Where is our attachment to time? Attachment to outcomes, attachment to physical reality, attachment to things happening for us right away? And how can we surrender to time to allow us to understand that the better that we can be and the more that we can surrender to time, the greater our capacity to receive when the divine timing arrives? Because time is very forgiving, even though we have cycles or there's deeper awareness to be had. It is very forgiving and it always comes back. But in this case, we can talk about it as time being a loving aspect of life, and not time as this, almost like this prison of our intuition. At the core of manifestation, it's not just about knowing what we want to desire, but it's also about our readiness to receive it. And that's where time and space connect us to that embodiment, but we have to work with it. We have to see it as a partner and a tool to understanding ourselves and where we lie in the anxious avoidant, or where our beliefs lie in the essence of time. Because the outcomes coming right away, like I said, could happen and can happen. And they do on a daily, right? Like we might make a choice based on intuition to follow a certain route to work one day, or we might think of somebody and give them a call. Those are all pretty immediate action towards our intuition, understanding what we want and desire, and also listening to our needs and how to align those things and use time as a reflection of what that looks like, and then also evolving ourselves into the version of ourselves that we want to be when we receive that, to ensure that we can. When you see time not as your enemy, but as your mirror, patience becomes more like presence, and that becomes your superpower. It brings it back to yourself, and you then intuitively, instinctively can tune into time and know when the timing is right. You're not acting impulsively, you're acting out of the alignment of who that version of yourself would and is. You don't see time as something that's holding you back. You see it as grace and preparation and the space in which allows you to shift into the version of yourself you want to be. So I will leave you with that. Thank you so much for joining me today. And please feel free to share this podcast episode. I'm loving doing the podcast. I always appreciate your support. So if you could just copy the link or follow along, subscribe, like whatever it is, whatever platform you're on, that would be so greatly appreciated. And I'm sending you so much love. Thank you again for joining me for this episode of the Wit and Wonder Podcast. Please remember, time isn't against you. It's here to mirror what's already inside of you. Every cycle is another chance to forgive yourself and choose again. So if you're in waiting, trust that the timing is working with you and for you. If this episode spoke to you, please come and connect with me on Instagram. You can find me at Wit and Wonder Podcast or on my personal account, mariab.mindset. I am deeply enjoying getting back into doing energy readings and mentorship sessions. So if that's something that you would be interested in, please reach out. I would love to hear from you and work with you. Otherwise, until next time.